Hello and welcome to the Happy, Healthy, Strong podcast. This is a podcast dedicated to helping you live a happier, healthier, and stronger life. Building a life that you love starts with you owning your health and intentionally creating the best version of yourself. So if you're looking to better understand how proper nutrition, daily movement, mindset work, and strength training can help you create a life full of happiness and health, then you are in the right place. I generally hope that the tips, tricks, and information that we share will be the catalyst for change. I'm your host, Adam Lane. It's time to dive in. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of this combination, guys, of Oak Performance Radio and the Happy, Healthy, Strong podcast. So glad to have you here with us today. Coach Colby Wartman in beautiful North Dakota, Next Level Training. Colby, how are you?
Doing great, man. Doing great. It cut out just a little bit there, but I cannot complain. Getting to do what I love, and it's been nothing but great conversations before we hit record. So I appreciate the time, and yeah, man.
There we go. No, this is exciting. You have a very interesting backstory, and now to come full circle, we're father, husband, strength guy, endurance guy. You coach regular people, you coach athletes, train for a marathon. You have so many plates spinning right now. But let's start here. For the tens of people that listen to this show that might not know who you are and why you're such a big deal, give them the rundown. Tell our people who you are and why you're such a big deal.
I don't know about that. Great question, but it's still a mystery. Man, I grew up in small town Wyoming, like 5,000 people. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows everybody's business, and it's what I love. I love that. Long story short, performance and athleticism and fitness and just being a better version of yourself, trying to be every single day was kind of bred into me. My mom was an IFBB pro bodybuilder and then went 180, kind of like her son is right now, 180 into endurance side stuff. And then my father played professional baseball over in Australia, and then was on the practice squad with the Oakland A's for a little bit. And so performance has always been there. And after high school, went and got my degree and played college football. And it was always the point of I enjoyed the preparation to be better at football than football. I was all conference outside linebacker, 4-year starter, all that stuff. But the getting ready for it was what I loved. The weight room, the sprints, the intangibles. So that's what's landed me in what I do now. I feel that getting to train these athletes is my 100% mission on this earth. God gave me that skill for a reason. And for a while, I don't know how much of my podcast you listen to, but I'm coming up on my 9th year of sobriety from opiate addiction. And I wasn't living out that purpose. And I feel like I am living out that purpose now. And that's why I continue grinding down the path of training athletes and being the person that I needed. That's really what it comes down to.
My favorite coach in the world. I don't know if you know Don Meyer. Do you know the name Don Meyer? Later, Google Don Meyer, ESPN. He's got a 30 for 30 that'll make you cry. He coached men's basketball at Lipscomb University for 700-ish wins. And then he came over to Northern State in South Dakota. He never wanted to do the D1 thing because of all the politics and stuff like that, but finished his career with like 927 career victories, passing Bobby Knight. He has a fantastic story. Sadly, at the end of his career, because small D2 schools, their travel and whatnot was like literally driving car. They'd be in a bus. They're scouting and stuff like that. He was coming back from a scouting trip. An older guy, again, you get up there, kind of fell asleep at the wheel, did some swerving, got hit by a truck, made it, lived it. When he got to the hospital, they found crazy amounts of cancer in his body, like that they would not have found if not for the car accident. And, fast forward, they end up treating the cancer. He ends up losing his leg through the crash, but ends up coming back and coaching, X amount of more games before he eventually retires and then passed away a few years back. But won the Jimmy Valvano Award, the Jimmy V. Espy Award back in 09 or 2012, somewhere in there. But he has the line that there is no better feeling in this world than watching athletes get better. And really everything you just described there, dude, I feel the same way. I feel the absolute same way. Like it is there's something about like when I sit down to do the books for the gym, like this is not fun. You know, when I'm whatever, doing all the other, 47,000 other things. But the second I step on that floor, like it's like a switch goes off and, and I'm in the zone. And like, this is what I was made to do. I think you feel the same.
It's a weird feeling. And I try to tell people, I don't want to like be boastful about it, but like, it's such a great feeling to have found the thing that I love, because so many people are searching for it, like so many people. And it's like, I was lucky enough to stumble upon it. That doesn't mean, just like you said, I hate doing scheduling. And that is something that just every Sunday, it's like 3 hours, 4 hours getting that stuff done, doing the books, doing that's part of it. But man, you're right. It's a switch. And I see the impact that, set aside the X's and O's of actually lifting the weights and running and sprinting. Man, you foster those relationships and you see them grow as we have a saying, better athletes, but better humans. Like that's our goal, and it's so gratifying.
Yeah. I'm amazed how that relationship, and this is not rocket science, I don't think. When I was teaching, there's this discipline program called Teaching with Love and Logic. And it's all about building that relationship. And I taught math. And when you teach math, about half the kids love math and half the kids hate math. There's not much down the middle. It's very black or white. It's like, oh, I get it. Or no, this is terrible. I hate this. I hate you. But if you can get them to like Mr. Lane just a little bit, he makes some cheesy jokes. He asked me about my day. He knew I had, a basketball game last night and he asked me about my basketball game, and he asked me, he saw I was down one day and he asked me, how are things going? And, my dog was, we had to put my dog down, like building that really stupid stuff like that. That has nothing to do with math, nothing to do with strength training or sprinting or any of that stuff, but just like caring about the humans that are in front of you. Holy cow. I mean, it's pretty dang simple at the end of the day.
It's pretty dang simple, and maybe not the sad thing. Maybe people are just more financially driven, but man, it's something that I don't unfortunately see everywhere else. Like I'll tell you this right now. I have a 16-month-old baby boy, and right now where I'm at with all my athletes, like I can truly say deep down in my heart, and not just be putting on this front because their parents are paying me or whatever. Some of my favorite things in the world to do is go on Saturdays, go on Fridays, and sit in the corner and watch them play. And I will love that when my son's doing it too. And like, it's, there's something to it, but there was a study, Adam, forgive me, the details are a little foggy, but it was a very, very all-inclusive study with a large population set. And it showed the impact of a father or a role model. And they were talking about the difference between three things: a dad not showing up to the event, a dad staying for the first quarter, and a dad staying for the whole game. And what they showed is the detrimental effects over a 10 to 20 year period of where did these kids end up? Obviously, the worst population set, dad didn't come. Dad coming into the first quarter and dad coming for the full game, almost identical results. And what does that tell us? They just want to see us there. They just want us there. They want to look up and see somebody proud of them. Like, I'm getting goosebumps. Like, that's what they want. And so doing those small, simple things is why we have a wait list, is why I'm too busy, and so it's a good thing. But it's not, you don't see it every.
Yeah. Which is unfortunate, dude. I'm the same way. And I wish my wife was wired up a little bit more pro sport, because not that she's anti-sport, but like our kids do wrestling, and it's a long day. You know this. You wrestled. Like, you wrestle, wait an hour. Wrestle again, wait an hour. Like, and the little kids wrestling. Like, They literally could be on the mat for 30 seconds and it'd be over. Like it's, quick. I find it to be so much fun. I love I love watching them. I love watching their buddies wrestle. I mean, like you said, I love like our athletes going to their games, going to their tournaments, stuff like that. It's so much fun, and I guarantee you get this the same way. I'm almost treated like a superstar, like a complete rock star. Look at this famous person walking, Adam, man. It's just, hi guys. Go play well, please. Okay, don't embarrass me. Okay, get this done. No, but like it's you just have to care. You just have. There's other stuff too, but like, gosh, if you just truly care about the people who are in front of you, and really pour into them.
Yep, and it gets even deeper than that too. Like you could be a subpar technician as a coach and have a subpar program, but if those kids will run through a brick wall for you, and you show them love and respect, like you're going to get a good result. I mean, you and I, we dive into the X's and O's and really want things to be perfect because that's who we are. But man, there's multiple factors that make great athletes.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, let's dive into the family thing a little bit, and then let's bring it back to the athletes. You're a big, strong dude preparing for a marathon. You have a 16-month-old, and you work. You're doing lots of things here. So like, now the little difference between you and the average person is that you're in a gym, and there's some different flexibility there. The negative there is that you're in a gym, and there's financial stress and stuff like that. But like different than somebody like sitting down at their 9 to 5. How do you with the adults that you train? With the life that they live, with the life that you live, how do you find balance, or how do you coach them to find balance in their life? Not that we're looking to. You said you're running the Billings Marathon. It's a Boston qualifier, but you said you might not qualify for Boston. A little sarcasm there, but like you're doing it to enjoy it, which is what the average person does. Hey, if you're going to run, go enjoy your running. If you're going to lift, enjoy the lifting, enjoy being healthy. Where do you take great pride in the way of either you and yourself training or pushing, your adult clients to be happy, healthy, and strong?
Man, the thing that I probably put onto my adult population, which mainly I train athletes, but I have a lot of my OGs that I train that have been long-term people. In my personal life, I've been burnt many times about the destination. And I've been absolutely burnt where I thought that was the pinnacle, that I thought that I was going to be fulfilled and I was going to be loved and praised to some extent for being the all conference outside linebacker or whatever it is. But you come to find out as you mature, and I've been in the game for 8 years, but I have a lot to learn, that the process is the real gold. And if I can instill that in adult population, which there's some people much older than me and much younger than me, I tend to find a better result. And so the weight room is so good at that. The weight room is so black and white, and it shows you today you weren't ready for that weight, but next week you may. And that has been instilled in me. And honestly, Adam, the biggest thing that helps me as a coach is my history with addiction. It's been shown, and it's absolutely opened my mind, and it's got me to a point where I'm at. So like the biggest thing is what I used to call addict consistency. Addicts are consistently lying, consistently late, consistently doing something wrong. What I found in the speeches that I give on this, and I hope it clicks with people. It clicks in my head. Those same habits and routines that kept me an addict for almost 10 years are the same ones that keep me where I'm at right now, getting ready for a marathon, being a father, doing these things. You just got to flip them on their head. And so for the adult population, with the lack of time, the subpar nutrition, the high stress, is let's get a couple great habits down. If we can just get a couple great habits down, things start to snowball, and we don't have to look at that end goal. We just look at that process. And I don't know how you've experienced it, but man, you start getting the habit of, I just had a gentleman, somebody I've trained for 6 years, and he never wanted me to help him with nutrition. He is overweight, and he would tell you the same thing, never wanted any nutrition help. Just a month ago, he's like, Colby, I think it's time after 6 years. So I built a habit of no more regular pop. That's where we had to start. No more regular pop. You can have all the diet substitute you want. That's where we're going to start. And we started there. And then now he's off of pop completely. And it's that snowball effect. So that's the thing that I think has helped my adult population. And I hope it has.
Yeah. So that's that's the theme. I can't tell you how often we just had Sam Flaherty, other power athlete coach, on yesterday, and it's a similar thing with nutrition, like in the way of you see these. Oh gosh, what's the 75 hard type thing going on? Where you just rip the Band-Aid right off. And honestly, for some people, the way they're wired up, I could see that working for them. But I don't think it's a huge population. I think it's a smaller. I think the rest of everybody else, because most people are probably prioritizing job and family and over so much of over their own health and fitness. I know sadly we see that with the kids that come in, like the parents aren't working out, but they want their kids to do well. And they have no problem paying the money for their kid. But if you ask them to pay the same money for themselves, no, I'm not basically almost saying I'm not worth it. Like, no, I don't, no, for a little 12-year-old Joey. Absolutely. Yep. I'll pay you $200. Here you go. Let's make this happen. I want the best for him. Which is awesome. Like that's what parents should do. And, that's amazing, but to actually put it on themselves. But I love what you said there, just in the sense of like, hey, let's form a step one. Let's form a habit. And if you're addicted to regular soda, let's just make it diet soda. You still get the bubbly, it's still a can, it just, it doesn't have the calories. It has the fake sugars. One could argue that, Colby, that's not healthy, coach. What are you doing? Why don't you do what to actually defend that really quick? Just because I bet people are thinking that, like, diet pop, that's not better. It's got sucralose, blah, 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 blah. Defend that.
I am somebody that I will hold my ground very, very hard until I am proven wrong, and I will pivot, and I will pivot hard. Because I feel like we have to in what we do. Long story short, I follow and have some good friends that are on the bodybuilding side. And in the bodybuilding world, it's calories in, calories out. And obviously that range true in a lot of what we do as well. But there was a couple, and I had to look it up for myself, and I could even send them for people to look in the show notes. But I looked at a couple of the original studies on artificial sweeteners. And this is a general statement for all artificial sweeteners. I do not remember the exact details that were in the study specifically. However, in that study, they showed that we used to think that aspartame, the first thing that I thought when I thought of aspartame was Alzheimer's, that it caused cognitive decline. Long story short, it was a rat study, and the amount used for the aspartame was astronomical, almost 10,000 fold what the normal intake is for a human. So you would have to drink 50, 100 pops a day to get the equivalent effects that they had. So they showed all these negative things, but the amount was crazy. So then there's this doctor that I follow as well, and I reached out to him. He sent me the studies. Long story short, the minuscule amount that we ingest as humans has been shown to have very minuscule to zero effects that they showed in that rat study, which was cognitive decline, that kind of stuff. So it's this balance, right? Like you said it earlier. What are you training for? What do I need to instill right now? Do you have a calories in, calories out problem? Okay, let's address that. And then, hey, let's drink some element. Let's drink some water, That's where we get to that next habit stack.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the big piece there. Like, hey, this is the diet pop was that was the bridge to get to, You're right. Sucralose, absolutely, but it doesn't have the hydration stuff. We don't have any electrolytes. It's got caffeine, needed or not needed. So like it's not the healthiest thing in the world, but it's not like, hey, it's better than the regular. And then you got him to totally get off it, and what a great bridge. Now we're drinking water, and now we can start to mess with halo element and some it just makes sense. I love that. I love that simple progression for people when they start with you. I know you. We'll get more into the youth thing here in a second, but when adults over the past 8-9 years have started with you, where do you start them? Do you start them more on the fitness side of things, more on the nutrition side of things, combination?
I would say in the last 2 to 3 years, Adam, I've never struggled with nutrition. So I was under the impression that other people could not struggle with nutrition. I don't get sick of foods. I eat the same thing, X, Y, and Z. Well, that was just the performance that was kind of bred into me. Well, if you had asked me this question 3 years ago, train. We just need to start training. We need to go. However, now, honestly, our gym as a whole, my business partner, Dan, we've really attacked nutrition head on, and our results have been astronomical compared to what they were. Astronomical. And so I do not enjoy coaching and teaching the nutrition side. I just don't, because I never struggle with it. And that's probably why. However, I know how pivotal it can be. So we start very early. Within the first week, just giving them a little bit of education and guidance. And usually how we start with nutrition is, honestly, I tell people, because as soon as I say, hey, bring out this, I don't use MyFitnessPal anymore, but bring out this tracker, everybody just shuts down, because they're like, I have to track my food, I have to weigh it. And it sucks. For me, somebody that's a gym rat, I hate doing it, let alone having a 9 to 5 and kids. So what I tell them is, I said, I need 2 weeks. I need 2 weeks. Let's break it down day by day. So I need 2 weeks of tracking. And so we track 2 weeks. From there, I build them their macro breakdown. And then all I do specifically is I have a do list and a don't list. And if it's on the do list, which is a Harry Potter book, eat it. And pretty much it boils down to whole foods. Try to cut out as much stuff in a box is the big thing. So if it's a whole food, if it's high meat, high protein, everything, eat it. And then we kind of make small adjustments off of that. But I think everybody could benefit from just cutting out the box and eating from whole foods.
Let's tie this directly into the kids stuff now. So in the way of working with, because I struggle with this with our high school kids. We coach a lot of females. So now all of a sudden, middle-aged man, Coach Adam, trying to say, hey girls, we need to eat more protein. Hey, let's not skip breakfast. Hey, let's not skip lunch. Hey, let's eat more than one meal a day. Hey, you need to feel, Cheez-Its is not a food group. Like, whatever it may be. Glad you got your Starbucks in on the morning, but if you woke up 3 minutes earlier, you could have had some overnight oats, and we'd be in business. Is that much of a thing, that nutrition piece, much of a thing that you do with your high school, college? I think is a little bit easier, but like talk specifically like middle school, high school kids who are still like under their parents' roof and eating the food that's put in front of them.
Yeah. So we do a lot of small group. When we say small group, we usually have a ratio, not usually, always. If there's more than 5 kids in a small group, we have to have a second coach. I really like that. However, and it's been something that's been super popular for us. However, even at the 5 mark or the 10 mark or the 15 mark, in those small groups, it's much harder to give, just because of our time, it's much harder to give that individualized nutrition approach to them. However, 75% of what I do is one-on-one, 2-on-1 with my more advanced athletes. And that's 90% of my day is full of that. And there we can get much more specific. We can get much more specific for them. So on the side of athletes, Adam, and I want to ask you after this too, kind of what you do, because if I can sharpen my blade and figure out a different perspective, because I struggle with it too. The big thing that if I had to boil it down to two things that these kids that I struggle with and that they could improve on as well, and they struggle with, is increasing their protein and their sleep. Their sleep is so minuscule nowadays. I'm not a big scroller before bed kind of guy. When I hit the pillow, I'm gone. But that's not the case for these kids. And we have year-round AAU basketball, soccer clubs, strength training. They're in season all year round, and they're sleeping 6 hours a day, 5 hours a day. That's where we start getting into the train wreck. So for me specifically, my first thing that I'll address with my athletes on nutrition is, obviously, if we have very, very overweight kids or underweight eating disorders, we'll address that. But 90% of them, I address, we need to increase your protein. I don't even need you to track, because I know you're not eating enough protein. It's just usually how it goes. So whether that's an intervention of protein shakes or intervention of education, saying, hey, how I do it usually, every single meal that you eat, boys, girls, try to make half of it protein, the other half, whatever, fruits, vegetables, mashed potatoes, whatever. But half of that, try to get protein. That's the biggest thing. So how do you do it?
Yeah, no. No, dude, I couldn't agree with your 2 points anymore. I'm amazed. Sorry, I have so many thoughts that just came through my mind. So I'll hit on our volleyball club that we work with, and it's a phenomenal club. They do amazing work in the way of truly like balancing what is a business, because they have bills to pay and rent to pay and stuff like that, with what is truly best for the kids. I've not seen anybody do it as well as they have. Our kids have been involved in other different club things, not as good of experience as what our volleyball kids are getting. But even with that being said, practice for our top level kids, our elite group, and then even our premier kids 2 days a week, goes till 9 o'clock at night. Well, some of these kids drive, by the time you change your shoes and blah, 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 9 o'clock turns into 9:15. So some of these kids are driving not 20 or 30 minutes, but some of these kids are driving an hour and 15 minutes in which to get here. So now we're not getting home until like 10:30 at night. It's interesting to see as they get older, homework and stuff, AP classes, they get more and more and more. I don't think our group is necessarily special, but like, we have so many smart kids. I look at our group and it's a bunch of the salutatorians and the valedictorians, and like they are smart switchers. There's AP Chem, AP Physics, we just had a girl last night. I'm like, hey, Ashley, did you, if we finalized college yet? She's like, yeah, I'm going to University of Texas in Austin. I'm like, what's the major? She's like, physics. I'm like, oh, you're smarter than I am. Good for you. But like, but these are the kids that get home late, and now we have school to do, and it's better as freshmen, but it gets worse like that junior senior year, specifically junior year. It's like all the AP classes, the SAT and 11 o'clock bedtime now turns into a 1 o'clock bedtime, and 1 o'clock now we're getting up at 6, and we're getting those 5 hours that you're talking about, and specifically with the girls, like puberty hits. Here, our boys, it's so funny with our boys. Our boys, like, we'll have kids that are just straight up inconsistent, and we'll scan them on the Sparta plate. They might disappear for 3 months. They'll come back. We'll rescan them, and they're better than they've ever been, because they put on 10 pounds of muscle just because of freaking puberty. They're bigger, stronger, faster, smellier, just better. Our girls do the same thing, but they get hippier. And not with the strength piece of it. And if they don't train right, if they don't get the sleep, if they don't get the nutrition, you'll actually see them tip down. And it's so frustrating because they put in the time to get better. And now you're putting in this effort, but not getting a return. And it's so hard. And it's the two things that you nailed there. It's the sleep one, because I think the sleep then affects the eating piece. Because so now, they're trying to milk every minute of sleep they can in the morning, So they wake up, they throw their hair up, they maybe grab a coffee out the door. They don't have time to make breakfast. Why would we do that? And then they go through the day, they hit lunch. They're not hungry because they didn't really sleep well. You know how your tummy gets all weird and funny when you don't sleep. And then lunch hits, but they'll prioritize if they have an AP Chem test coming up, 6th hour, they'll be studying through, lunch and not eat lunch because, oh my, I had that. Oh, so I had a bag of Cheez-Its. We did a nutrition presentation 2 years ago for the whole volleyball group. And one of the parents, who's also a teacher, she's like, I'm so happy you did this. I talked to my daughter on the way here today, and she's like, literally the only thing she had eaten on the day was a bag of gummy bears and a piece of pizza. She's like, what? So like we tell them we did it. Now we can get into this too as a parent, to have that, if you have that stuff around the house, or like, hey, maybe we need to make better choices at school or whatever it is. But like those two things are so hard to balance. And then, sorry, I just ranted, Colby. Sorry, so much.
Lack of sleep leads to a spike in our hunger hormones. So then on the opposite, whether it's a boy or a girl, we could be true. When we eat, we just start binging. That's why all the best restaurants, they put so many good restaurants in airports. There's the psychology behind that. They put those there because we have lack of sleep. We're tired. Starbucks looks great. Plus the Dunkin' Donuts, it's crazy, So for you specifically, and this is me just selfishly, for you specifically, you guys put on your nutrition seminar. Do you just kind of like give a little bit of tidbit of insight for them? Like, hey, this is the protein, or do you guys have staff that kind of takes care of that, or how do you do it?
So I don't have a good, we probably need to hammer it harder. Every year this presentation has changed. It has morphed every single year. First year we had one of our, I forgot what certification Lauren had. We're both precision nutrition, but she had some other things on top of it. Also a female. I'm like, Lauren, you just talk to him. And then the year after, we kind of did a combo of things. Actually stole a lot from Cal Dietz's, high performance nutrition stuff. But some of that was almost too high level, for the college kid that's, the Division I athlete. So it kind of went over some of our 15-year-olds' heads. So this year, we had one girl last year that I did not realize how dialed in her nutrition is. And she attacked this in a very smart, intelligent manner. And she meal prepped, and she made her 5 days of overnight oats on Sunday, and she put in the fridge. And so she had breakfast ready for her every single, took her 10 minutes to make overnight oats, and it just sat in the fridge. She would then take, whatever meat with whatever vegetable and make lunch for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Sometimes the whole week, but usually just the first half of the week. And then on Wednesday night, she'd make for the rest of the week. But just her dad would fry up whatever meat that she wanted, cook up whatever meat, and then she'd add vegetable thing just to make it taste good. Oddly enough, she says she got a lot of her recipes from TikTok. She'd see something like, oh, hey, let's do that. But then she liked that. And then lunch or dinner, then whatever the family was having. And so Sam never missed, breakfast, lunch. And it showed too. She is a strong, athletic, powerful girl. And she did such a great job. This year, her and I tag teamed the nutritional presentation. And it was more of we stole some precision nutrition stuff. They have green foods, yellow foods, red foods. So green foods, eat them all the time. Yellow foods, now and again. Red foods, a little bit more seldom. And you can just kind of, very similar to your list where you're like, hey, all these are good. Please don't eat these. But then not, hey, if right now, if you look at your plate and it's red, yellow, and a little bit of green, hey, tomorrow, let's make it a little bit more green and a little less red, and not saying you can't eat Cheez-Its. Eat some white cheddar Cheez-Its. Have fun. But it's something, here's my problem, is that we did that presentation. I guarantee you our kids ate pretty well, because they came up and told me, Adam, guess what I had for breakfast? I don't know. You tell me. Eggs. I had eggs. Great. Sounds amazing. You had eggs. Proud of you. You know what you could do tomorrow? The same thing. That would be amazing. That'd be amazing. But I guarantee you, it's not. Earlier in the year, we were talking all about it, and then as the year goes on, I look for new things to discuss and talk about, and I guarantee you, kids have fallen off the wagon and they're back to where they were. And so that's Colby. If you have an answer for that, let me know, because I wish I could just say it once and have it be heard. Thou shalt eat breakfast.
Yep. It's hard because the volume of athletes that we're training. Number one. Number two, if we could maybe hammer out a systems and procedures like, hey, this fits 90% of you guys. Do this, and that's probably a lack of me setting up the system. It's just how it goes. But over time, hopefully, we can just keep sharpening that blade and hopefully do it.
Yeah, I do think, and I think this comes to the parent often. I mean, we look at you, and you don't mind eating, dare I say, boring food, because that's how you grew up. Hey, we're gonna eat meat and vegetables and some fruit. Like, oh, this is so boring. What's boring about this? Like, this is real food that we're eating. This was in your garden. Or this is running around. I don't know if cows run around. And now it's on my plate. Now I'm eating it. What part of this is Yes, it's not a Starbucks latte with 50 grams of whatever fake sugar is thrown in there. So, I think I would love for parents to it's a big deal. Nutrition for your athlete is a big deal, and I think they're the one that might be our next step. I think we need to speak to the parents more. The kids can do some things, but
I think you're right. They're the funnel to the kid, anyways. You have kids, Adam, right? Awesome. 12 and 9. So like where I'm at with my little boy too, he's not a picky eater. The crazy part is we as a family for our first kid decided like we're going to make a conscious effort to try to cut out any and all processed foods for this little boy. And is it harder on us? Yes. Are we going to be better when we have our second kid? Probably not with time, but we've made this conscious effort, and now he doesn't do good if we give him sugar. He's not used to it. It's a lot of the home cooked meals or something that is a whole food. And I think you start that now. Us as coaches get my little boy or your little boy or girl down the road. Those are the athletes that have the food prepped. Those are the athletes that have all this stuff. It all starts there. And if we can start it. My sister, so my mother owns a gym. My sister owns a CrossFit gym. I won't hold it against her. And I own a gym. And so my sister's even way more on that end. Like she owns the gym, but she has hired it out and she works a little bit less. Well, she has 5 young kids. And so it is home cooked meals every single day. They got chickens, they got the cows, they got everything. And I think my generation, the millennial generation, like a lot of people are trying to get back to that simpler way of living. And that's what we want to do. I want to have some chickens of some sort. We were able to do it with the vast amount of land. So it works out. But that's the goal, right? I think that would be the best to speak to the parents about that and hopefully instill some habits.
I'm amazed, and I'm assuming you've seen this as a young dad. The monkey see, monkey do of my kids. It's never, and it's gotten worse as they've gotten older. Like my oldest will throw phrases that I say back at me, and I'm like, oh, child. Huge. But like I'm amazed what they soak up and what they see, and all of my little bad habits will come out, and in them be like, no, we're not eating that. Well, Dad had it. Well, somebody needed to finish the brownies. We had to wash the pan. Come on now, what are we doing here? This pan was dirty, and we had to clean it. No, it's amazing. We did a similar thing with both kids in the way of just trying to eat as much, regular whole food as possible. My wife would buy stuff and puree it up and whatever, as opposed to just buy the Gerber stuff. And I'm amazed, really, even to this day, the 12-year-old and the 9-year-old, their palates are very plain. And if we go out to eat and they order fish, the oldest loves fish. He orders some salmon. Da, da, da. Well, they'll season it with some, seasoning and stuff, which tastes amazing for us. But for him, it's like, Dad, why? There's so much stuff on it. There's so much, because he doesn't need that. Like, because, for the 12 years of his life, he's had very plain, boring food. Let's be clear. Do we do Culvers? Absolutely, we do Culvers. Stop it. We're not animals. Beefaroo, big down here. Da-da. Of course we do. When we're in a rush or things are little, yes, absolutely. But like the majority of the food is just nice, healthy. Like this morning, they're on spring break right now. I made up some eggs and cooked up some sausage and mixed it together. They had to come with Dad to the gym this morning, and I just threw it in a bowl with 2 spoons, and that's what Quinn came in earlier to get. And I'm like, buddy, that's breakfast and lunch. Okay, so pace yourself. And there's eggs in there for Dad too, so don't eat them all. But it's funny. You're doing all the right things, man. It's yeah. Yeah. Well, it's so much better than the kids that like grow up on like they eat nothing but chicken nuggets and fried stuff, and they get super picky and uh, oh, brutal, brutal, brutal. Um, Here, let's circle into the youth athlete stuff. We talked about the nutrition piece in the way of training. I always find it interesting because social media is getting bigger and bigger with different things. And I've had parents message me because there are specific, volleyball trainer jump people out there. And they're like, Adam, what do you think of this drill? And they'll tag me in something on Instagram. And I'll be like, oh gosh. And not that it's bad. It's just in my mind, I see progressions of things. And your child can't quite squat and not fall over yet. So we're going to work on that. Before we do the, massive depth drop with dumbbells, into a box jump while dropping the dumbbells in which to overspeed, da, 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 da. How do you look at youth training from the youngest kids that you coach to the oldest kids that you coach?
That's a really good question. So for the longest time, depending on periodization models and all the real big details and getting into the weeds, for very advanced athletes, a true just basic linear progression, a very advanced athlete is not the best case for them. And that's what research has shown. However, those young kids, I'm telling you, and the one thing we talked about a lot of power athlete prior, the one thing that I did enjoy, a true linear progression for a kid that has never come in, that has never done anything and doesn't have the confidence, the strength, let alone, does wonders. And maybe I'm too old school with that. I could bite my tongue, but man, I have seen some of the coolest confidence, strength, power improvements out of kids. And so my protocol is any new athlete that is in what I would be considered a beginner, we run through and exhaust a linear progression. And as soon as we exhaust that, then we can go to some of the more funky stuff. Then we can go to some of that stuff. However, it's linear progression and really tailoring into plyometrics and sprinting. The first while, I'm just teaching them how to chew bubble gum and walk in a straight line at the same time. So the sprint stuff is like very minuscule and trying to just get some patterning down. And the big thing, to run fast, you have to run fast. And so we just do competition drills. If it doesn't look pretty, it doesn't look pretty. But that's my protocol, man. From the start, it's a true linear progression. As we get into more advanced athletes, as I said, I had a couple guys for the Philadelphia Eagles. A guy that's going to get drafted here this in a month, at the end of this month. That's when we can get into a lot of what I love and what I was exposed to early on, a lot of Chaldeets and a lot of French contrast, giving it my own twist, because Cal, everybody doesn't have the crazy jumpy, runny hurdles, this, that, and the other. So we do a lot of modified French contrast, but the big thing and the principle that I will die on this sword for my advanced athletes and trickling it in with the younger ones, we need to lift heavy, we need to jump high, we need to sprint fast, and we need to throw things very hard. Those are my 4 pillars: sprint fast, lift heavy, jump high, and throw hard. If we can do those 4 things with an advanced athlete or a younger athlete, I feel like my obligation as a coach should be met. Those are my pillars. And because social media, you talked about it, even as a coach, I can start getting pulled in another direction and pulled this way with feed the cats and this, that, and the other. If it can all boil down to those 4 pillars, I think we're going in the right direction.
Yeah. I feel so. I recently redid our youth programming because I feel like we are very blessed in that we have a 13,000 square foot facility. We have 40 yards of turf. We have room for some whistles and bells, and we have some run rockets, and we have a Proteus machine, and we have that Sparta Science force plate. And then just there's so much good stuff out there, like the knees over toes stuff. There's some really good stuff within it. Do I think you need to put your entire, training system around it as you bring on a 12-year-old athlete? Probably not. There's probably some other things that need to be done. But I think it's really easy to get very distracted with all these different, shiny objects and, people doing crazy ass plyos, on Instagram, and look how cool this is, and when in essence it comes down to really what you just said right there: to sprint fast, to lift heavy, to jump high. I would say jump far also, and then also throw hard. Like that makes all the sense in the world to me. When I coached basketball, that was one of our things. Like when kids went out to shoot, I just didn't want them out there just shooting. I wanted game shots from game spots at game speed. Like you're going to shoot the ball where you shoot the ball. Okay. If you're not a 3-point shooter, we're not shooting 3-pointers. Okay. Work on your 15-foot, mid range. That's fine. Game shots from game spots, at game speed. But so you're just like catching and like you're boom and you're ready to go. You get 10 toes squared and you go right into it. And it was not rocket science, but dude, I absolutely love what you said right there. Like that I think that sums it up beautifully. And because sadly, I think there are a lot of parents out there that think there's some secret something of something. But if you do those things, if you run fast, you will get faster. If you lift heavy, you will get stronger. If you jump high and far, you will get more springy and plyometric. And and I love the throwing piece too, because I think that is the big piece that's left out of training is that Z axis, transverse plane stuff, to throw.
Charlie Francis knew what he was doing back in the day, and Vergashansky and all them. Like we have to take those tidbits, but as a coach, we are that funnel. And for me, I am. And we haven't talked about, I'm a real estate investor too. I do so much and I have all this stuff, right? It acts as a funnel for me. If I can come back to those 4 principles, it helps keep me grounded, let alone my athletes, because, social media is, love it or hate it. It's a part of what we do. And so that shiny object syndrome just isn't for the kids. It's for me as well as a ADD go guy, and so if I can boil it down and those kids ask me, why are we doing X? Because this is what it's going to help you with on the field. And you bring up a great point. This, I'm sure we're aligned very closely on this, but the sports specific training stuff, that is practice, and putting a throwing cord on a youth pitcher and giving him Tommy John surgery by the time he's 18 is not optimal. And so if I can boil it down and say, this is the pillar that it hits on. And I talk about it quite a bit, but if those pillars are something that I should market more, like these are the 4 things. If it fits within there, awesome. If not, let's have a conversation and see if it's worthwhile,
The early conversations I had, this is our 7th year working with this volleyball club, conversation I had early on about, training with volleyball staff. These are volleyball coaches doing volleyball things. Versus, our strength, and they stay out of our way, we stay out of their way. And then with that being said, we try to complement each other in the same breath. Coaches will come in and, help coach the kids as they're in the weight room, and then vice versa. We'll go out on the court, and work it. Hey, Maddie, we're landing all cattywampus. Can we land, 2 feet at a time as opposed to boom, because your right knee is making me hurt right now. Like let's boom. But a lot of the conversation was like, well, Adam, in order to, we want these kids to jump higher. Shouldn't you guys be doing more jump work? I'm like, well, we could, but they're with us for an hour, and then they go out on the court for 2 hours and jump and land and jump and land and jump and land and jump and land, and probably jump and land 150, 200 times. Like, I mean, we can, but we can also, shin splints aren't a lot of fun. Stress fractures aren't a lot of fun. Knee problems aren't a lot of fun. Back problems aren't a lot of fun. Like we will do landing drills like that we'll do some depth drops and just like focus on the landing, focus on the landing, focus on the landing. The idea, hopefully it carries out there, but I think it's interesting for people, especially parents, to see what we do. Cause it's hard sometimes not knowing, having our background and, hey, I want the best for my kid. And it makes sense. Like, oh, we want you to throw harder. So we're going to attach your arm to this, and just do a ton of that. And at the end of the day, a heavy deadlift for some amazing, trunk stability, will help you put on the brakes harder so you can throw harder. Yeah, I don't know. I love your pillars. That was fantastic. Did you get that from somebody, or is that your own mind?
That one was from me. I just, my mentor, Coach Pete Leno, and actually, you probably don't know him. However, he's in the arena. I know Sparta, and there's one other big company on the force plate side that does it well. Something like that. Yeah. Well, long story short, I'll wrap it around to the pillars. My mentor, Coach Leno, coached multiple Olympians, gold medal winners from the Bahamas that came to our college, a lot of stuff. And he has his own force plate company. And he does force plates here out of Dickinson, North Dakota. And he just recently retired from being a professor and his business. And now he's just full on business, which is really good. But his thing, man, it came down is these are all pieces to this puzzle. And all these 4 pillars, I can say that I created them in my mind and put them out. But all these 4 pillars came from 50 different mentors of mine that knew that these things were important. And all I did was boil it down to something that made sense for me. It made sense for my athletes, is what it came down to. And Coach Leno was huge because he has the force plate data. He's had 13 years now of force plate data. And so he sees that the barbell and squatting and all of that is a very important piece. But when it comes to eccentric loading, it's not going to be the end all be all, and when we're doing a back squat compared to a jump, even the concentric loading and the spring it's a different world. Those are 2 different things. And so when I made this, over the years, I would say in the last 4 to 5 years, Adam, is when I really started like, hey, when the kids are ready, not your original first kid that walked in, when the kids are ready, jumping and landing, super important. And then the med balls and that. So those 4 pillars just kind of came together from mentors and what made sense for my athletes.
Oh, dude, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, and then I look at adult training, and I don't see it being that much different than the youth outside of you have to, I don't want to use the word scale it, but you have to adjust it for the person, so sadly, I've seen people who are, they have a pretty decent deadlift, but there's that white stuff in the winter called snow that comes down that now we have to shovel it. And that rotation, like they'll hurt their back. They can deadlift 400, but they go to, oh, my back. Like, no, like that can't be had. And what are we missing? We're probably missing that rotational. We need to throw things in this rotational pattern, more often. We need to run fast. Now, when we say run fast, we don't actually need, Sally to sprint, 100-meter runs, but she can hit bike sprints. She can hit sprints on the rower, intervals on the rower, on the ski erg. Like there are other ways in which to sprint. You can lift heavy in which to get stronger. Again, that's relative. We don't want to lift with bad form, and mine's gonna be different than yours because obviously you're younger and stronger and better looking all over, versus a new 13-year-old kid versus a middle-aged mom, or like it's all relative depending on where you are. So like and then even the jump landing thing, like jump high. We can jump high, but I think it's even more important on the landing thing. Like if you're a dad and you go to jump off the tailgate of your truck, like that's a really easy way to blow out a knee if you don't land well. Like so, like how can we scale this back so you can land softly and your back and knees and whole body doesn't hurt as you jump and land, whether it be a simple broad jump or whatever it might be.
A lot of my kids that are ready for the plyos kind of hate the first week and a half, 2 weeks, because I'm like, hey guys, we're going to introduce some plyos. And they're like, oh buddy, this is the sexy stuff. This is the hurdles. And I have a 12-inch box that they're stepping off of and landing on double leg. Then we go landing on single leg, and then we do actual dynamic. So I have a progression where we start really tall and we pull ourselves down. We're not even jumping. We're decelerating. And then we introduce a vertical jump and a broad. So it's all about that scale, man. And early in my career, and sometimes even now, the systems help me a lot better now, but I've jumped the gun and I've gone too far right away. I think we probably all have, but you find out that you don't have to crack 11 of the 12 eggs to make a dozen. So we can scale it.
Yeah. And I love that metaphor too, because that's one of my biggest frustrations with whether it be sport coaches or strength coaches, where like you eggs against the wall approach. Like, hey, you throw a dozen eggs against the wall, you have one that doesn't break, and they're the D1 athlete, they're the state placer, and you're like, oh, look how great of a coach they are. And you look on the sideline and you got all these other kids wearing boots and knee braces and had surgeries and blah 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 blah, and you're just like, oh man, because I was the kid opposite of you. I had no genetic trash can right here. Like not, I worked insanely hard in which to be a very average football player, just to start, throw that on my mind. But like it bothers me because that eggs against the wall thing. There might be some kid that can handle the more high level plyometric a little earlier on, but like you said that I've made the mistake of like, hey, let's try this, and then I watch it be like, oh no, oh sorry, Carl, you can't do that.
Yeah. We have
we're okay.
It's unfortunate.
No, you're not.
Yeah, it's super unfortunate, but it's well known in my area. So I'm not saying anything out of the ordinary, but we have a college wrestling program here. And the college coach was a genetic freak. 3-time, I think he was a 3-time national champion, went to Iraq, was deployed, came back and won another national championship. But he was one of those guys that you could throw anything at him, and genetically he's predispositioned to oppose injury very well. Well, he's taken that philosophy and the natural philosophy of wrestling, very hard. Long story short, every single year since he has taken over, every single year, we've been ranked in the top 10 to 15 in the nation. And every single year, Adam, it's super unfortunate, but we've never finished top 10 or 15. We've always finished outside of the top 25. And me as a strength coach, when I was the collegiate strength coach at my alma mater for 3 years after I graduated and did all that. So I was the head strength staff at the college. It was all that good jazz. The weight room, the athletic training room, recovery room, full of wrestlers with shoulder and knee injuries. And that should not be the case. That should not be the case. And when I say everybody, one guy that made it to nationals out of the whole group because he was just like the coach and he was the predispositioned one to not have injuries. And so it's It's tough, man. It's super, super tough, but it's well known here. The guy is an amazing athlete. The guy is a dog. Would I want to meet him in a back alley when I kicked his dog? No. But that's what it is, man.
Yeah. Well, here, Colby, to wrap up with this, and we should name the podcast after this. Jake Paul, you've done some things. Talk about your Jake Paul experience.
I have a podcast of my own that I go in depth on this whole experience. It was, I think, 2 or 3 episodes ago. Long story short, man, what's that? My podcast is Next Level Radio. It is on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube. We got video on Spotify, everything. So I will find it out right now. It'll take 2 seconds. But I ran, this is kind of a longer story long. I was running an ultra race, marathon length race last year or 2 years ago. And I was running this and I met a gentleman named Ryan Borland. And Ryan Borland, professional boxer, originally from California, lives here in Dickinson, works on the oil rigs, all this stuff. Well, him and I had the same chiropractor. And long story short, we hit it off. We were running in this race and I was like, man, this guy almost beat me at the end and he doesn't look like he should beat me. He's an animal. He is an animal. I was like, what is his story? And I knew he was a professional boxer. So I was like, hey, let's have a conversation on the podcast. So episode 122, it's the whole recap. But we had a conversation, and with those type of people, it's not everybody, but like real estate investors that have never worked out a day in their life, I don't do this with, but these kind of guys, we go on a run or we train prior to, and then we jump on the podcast together. And it's kind of that shared suffering. And so long story short, I had the podcast with him and I didn't talk to him for 6 months. And I get a call or a text one day and it says, hey, can I call you? And I was like, sure, this is super weird. And he's like, hey man, I want you to be my coach. I have a boxing fight coming up. I was like, awesome, man. Like, here's my rates. Here's this, like, we'll meet and we'll do all this. And he's like, no, this is bigger than what you're thinking. And I was like, what's big? He's like, I'm fighting Jake Paul in Puerto Rico. The biggest boxing fight to date in Puerto Rico. Largest streaming besides the next one that he's going to be fighting Mike Tyson. So it all just snowballed, man. And it was because I reached out to a guy that I was running a race against and we became friends. So the experience, I'll kind of skim over the details. And if you want more details, let's do it. But we had Ryan was retired for 5 years. And he got chosen for this fight. And he was a professional boxer, Golden Glove boxer, amazing. And it was awesome. So we went through a camp and Ryan, we only got like 7 weeks because that's what they do on the Hollywood side. They don't see the theatrics. They made him scrape his Instagram to make it look like he wasn't retired. They made him do all these things, the theatrics. They gave us 7 weeks. And with 5 years of retirement, I probably would have wanted 3.5, 4 months in a perfect world. But I digress. And so we got to the fight. We went through camp, had an amazing training camp. Everything was amazing. And I got to actually be in his corner for the fight. So I was on live television, 30,000 people sold out. I've never had an experience like that in my life, Adam. But it was really, really cool for anybody on the strength side or anybody listening to this. The attention to detail that it forced me to have. Not that I don't have that with high school kids, college kids, all this, but like this was a different thing and a different level. And so we went down to Puerto Rico. Unfortunately, the thing that Ryan could beat Jake Paul at is his endurance. He is I've never seen somebody like this. I have a conditioning test, the lactic acid threshold test that I do with a lot of my athletes. And off the couch, he crushed mine and every single one of my other athletes on a conditioning test after 5 years of retirement. And like blew it out of the water. So the experience was unlike any other, Adam. People that really want the nitty gritty. I have my YouTube channel that I documented everything. I have a whole documentary on it. And then the podcast. And we went down to Puerto Rico. My wife came with me. I got to be in the corner and meet Jake Paul, Logan Paul, the family, everything. And it was wild. It was wild. Yeah.
Interesting. Holy cow. How was meeting Jake Paul? How's Jake?
So interestingly enough, cameras change people. That's just what it is. And I didn't realize how theatric everything is until you're behind the scenes. And I'm at the weigh-ins, I'm at the press conferences, I'm behind the scenes, getting mic'd up, doing all this stuff. And so to a lot of people's surprise, and this is my take, and Logan can take it up with me if he would like. But outside of the cameras, Jake Paul is a normal dude. He's a human. He's a human just like any of us. And but when the cameras are on, he's a different person. His persona is different. Logan, on the other hand, cameras rolling, WWE star, all this. Long story short, before the fight and after the fight, got to meet with them. There was some contention going on after the fight. So actually their team came into our locker room afterwards and just told us good job. And we were talking about part of the fight. But Logan, less genuine of a person. Jake, even he fought him. He was fine. When the cameras are off, just a normal human. Logan was just a little rude to us, very standoffish, and we didn't get that from Jake. We didn't, and that was who he was fighting. So, yes, everything's rambunctious and Hollywood and all this stuff, but they're humans at the end of the day. It's just, it is what it is.
Yeah. I find it interesting, and not surprising, but the theatric part that gets viewers and people interested. And like, I've never been a big boxing guy at all, but like this whole, fight against Tyson and stuff like that. Like I'd like to see Tyson throttle him. And this is something that I wouldn't like. This isn't high level boxing. This is not Tyson in his prime. Like that's exactly. The best of the best of the best. That's the Michael Jordan of boxing going on. And now we're just getting, into the theatrics of things, but it's just interesting what people do to.
Yeah. Long story short, I can't officially say much more than I will, but there's a decent chance that somehow I'll get to be involved with that next one coming up as well. So yeah, they've already pre-sold 90,000 tickets. It's on Netflix, and there's 550 million people that have Netflix account. If 150 million partake, it's the biggest boxing event ever. So yeah, it'll be. We're still waiting on some details, but there's an opportunity at hand. Yeah, I appreciate it. Again, I'm not deserving of it. I walked into what God told me to do. So long story short, I say long story short a lot, and it's not long story short. But I have a daily prayer that I say every day. And that daily prayer is, God, bring me the people that you need, bring me the people that you want. And I find that a lot of times we get caught in the minutia and caught in life in this rut, that God is laying out these people or these opportunities, and we don't act upon them. And we think that, for a long time, I thought that every thought that came in my brain is self-generated, and I said it, and I did it, and I did this. And it's not the case. Like that split second when it's like, oh man, I haven't thought about my great aunt in a while, and her name pops in your head. Call her, reach out to her. Like that's what happened with Ryan. I ran the race and I was like, man, that guy's awesome. And then didn't talk to him for a while. And then it's like, hey, you should have him on your podcast. Okay, let's do it. And now we are greatest of friends. He's in a church group with me. We have family barbecues. That's true evangelism in my mind. It's not come to church with me or else, or be a part of my group or else. And I think that's the only reason I was there. It wasn't because I should be there. It was because I acted on something that God gave me.
Dude, that's awesome. My wife she teaches 7th grade, and she runs a little Bible study. They call it Rise and Shine. And so she brings in different speakers. And so there's a pastor that works out in our gym who does jujitsu. He's done some MMA. He's now, I think Tim's about 60 or so. But so she brought him in to speak to her, this middle school group of, of kids, maybe 30, 35 kids. And his line, which I absolutely love, is do the things that you love and bring Jesus with you. And, and I absolutely love that. I think that's absolutely fantastic. And really to everything that you're doing there, like you love the running thing, you love the training piece, and you just, and you bring them with you. And I think that's awesome.
It's I wouldn't be here without it. So it's guided my life thus far, and we're hopefully headed in the right direction.
Yeah, never easy, but
never
in the right direction.
Always worth it.
There we go. Colby, for people that want to find out all the things, and we'll put all these things in the show notes too and whatnot, where do they find you and everything that you're doing?
Yeah, me specifically as a coach, probably the best is at Coach Wartman on Instagram, at Coach_Wartman. Sorry, YouTube channel, search Coach Wartman, and our gym, which is doing amazing things in my eyes and changing people's lives from the molecular level to the 10,000 foot view, is the Iron Chapel here in Dickinson, North Dakota. We're pretty much Diet Canada with how cold it gets up here. But that's why you got a good warm gym. So that's where usually is the best place to find me, is Instagram and YouTube.
Diet Canada.
Diet Canada too. Oh, yes.
That's fantastic. Colby, I really appreciate you taking the time.
I loved it.
Love catching up. I love the podcast that you do. I've only caught a couple episodes, so I need to go back and, these are the podcasts I really appreciate. Like I like the big ones and stuff like that. And, Rogans and things and stuff like that. But just sometimes, I don't know, you get good, passionate people behind a microphone talking about things that they love. And it's just funny where wisdom and guidance and stuff like that can come from. Yes. So, dude, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thanks for taking the time.
Yes, sir. Thank you so very much. I appreciate everything you're doing. And it was a pleasure, honestly.
Awesome, man. You're the man. I appreciate it. Listeners, thanks for listening, and we will catch you on the next one. That's all we have for you today. If you have any questions or want to chat or interested in seeing what we're up to in between episodes, head over to Instagram and Facebook and follow @OakStrength. Also check us out at oakstrength.com. If you like this episode, please share it with someone who wants to live happy, healthy, and strong. If you really liked it, subscribe and review the Happy, Healthy, Strong podcast on iTunes or Spotify. Be sure to tune back in next week, and remember to keep owning your health. Hello and welcome to the Happy, Healthy, Strong podcast. This is a podcast dedicated to helping you live a happier, healthier, and stronger life. Building a life that you love starts with you owning your health and intentionally creating the best version of yourself. So if you're looking to better understand how proper nutrition, daily movement, mindset work, and strength training can help you create a life full of happiness and health, then you are in the right place. I generally hope that the tips, tricks, and information that we share will be the catalyst for change. I'm your host, Adam Lane. It's time to dive in.